I was looking on LinkedIn and I saw something about a transformer that was made by SGB-SMIT, and it was made using some steel from Thyssenkrupp, and it was made for a company called Enexis. So let me introduce my guests, because we're going to talk about that transformer. It's pretty exciting. First, it's Ulrich Voss. He is from SGB-SMIT. Ulrich, what's your title there?
The official title is Vice President Marketing and Sales for Power Transformers.
Okay, marketing and sales. Remember that, people. Marketing and sales. His job is to get 1 million of them sold. And Marcel Hilgers, he is with Thyssenkrupp. Marcel, what's your role there?
Thank you, Alan. Yeah, I'm pretty happy about my title because it's not really a title. I'm taking care about customers, markets, and technology, and that's what I'm doing for our GOES manufacturing plants here.
Okay, you're taking care of, that's your title, Vice President of Taking Care of, okay? And then lastly but not least, Hossein, and I'm going to butcher it, Hossein Hashush.
El Hashushi, yes.
Hashushi, I forgot the I, okay, but I got there. Hossein is with Enexis, and what is your role there, Hossein?
I'm manager procurement, responsible for the purchase of all the grid components and the IT at Enexis.
So we have people trying to sell something to a procurement guy, and we all know what happens there is like, oh my gosh, you know, let's get the right thing. You got to get the right specs. But what I love about is the story about how we came about with the transformer that you bought is very unique. I think it's also inspirational. I also think it's aspirational. We've got to show the industry things that can be done. And I want to start off first of all with you, Ulrich. So SGB-SMIT, you're a big company. You make a lot of transformers. You make a lot of other electrical components. What in the world caused you all to think about you'd like to be able to produce a carbon neutral transformer? How did you get involved in that?
I would not say carbon neutral, but for SGB-SMIT, sustainability is really one of our key drivers towards the future. And a big part of this is CO2. And really, we were thinking a lot about how can we, as a transformer manufacturer, reduce CO2. At the end, as a manufacturer, we can do a limited number of things. We can save waste, we can avoid waste, we can use LEDs or something. But the main drivers is the customer specification with the losses, because low losses over a lifetime is a huge impact, and it is our sub-suppliers. And there, the major, with 40% of our sub-suppliers, of the materials of them, is the core material. And therefore, Thyssenkrupp is with us here in this talk.
So, see, to get to carbon neutral, you have to get lower CO2. So decarbonization is more where I was going for. You may never get to carbon neutral, but then you'll buy credits and the company can do this. But we're all moving to try to get to a carbon neutral economy. And so here you are, now you're looking at a sub-supplier of a major component of transformers. And you talk to Marcel at Thyssenkrupp. That's a hard one for me to say. You know, I don't have that strong German word in me. But anyway, so Marcel, tell us a little bit about how, when you were working with SGB-SMIT, you came up with the idea of we've got to do the same thing, because it's not just what you did in this project. It is a commitment from the whole company to be able to decarbonize, digitalize, and decentralize, right?
Yeah, thank you, Alan and Ulrich. Yeah, indeed. I think we are on the same mission in this, what we would call overall electricity industry here. So decarbonization. But let's have a quick look into steel industry. In steel industry, we are a major polluter, you could say, with the given state of technology. So globally, about 8 to 9% of CO2 emissions are created by steel and iron making. So we are a big part of the problem, but a big part of the solution. And we as a company have clearly taking commitment right now. So our target is to decarbonize our production completely until the year 2045. But we are doing this in steps, and we are having already today decarbonized steel solutions available. And for this, of course, we need customers, yeah, transformer makers, and of course, transformer makers need customers. So we are looking for partners in this big transformation phase, pioneering partners, and SGB, Ulrich mentioned this, is here a dream partner, so to say, because they are really looking forward to decarbonize as well. And so naturally, we got together about this for the first steel with a reduced CO2 intensity delivered to them.
Okay, excellent. So we've all left the best for last here, right? So saying this is brilliant. If they didn't have a customer, so if Thyssenkrupp did not have a customer, SGB, and if SGB-SMIT didn't have a customer, Enexis, none of this would happen. So you all had to create specs. You had to do everything according to cost, the factor of cost into it. And as the procurement expert, you all came along, and when they brought the idea to you, you adopted it and said, yeah, we would like to work as partners. That talk about when you first heard about it and your role in creating specs, and then ultimately saying, we will buy that transformer.
Let's begin first of all with the credits where they are due, because it's an idea that actually existed with Ulrich, between Ulrich and Marcel. So when Ulrich approached me with this idea, it was the greatest idea, because our focus as an DSO is to lower the losses of energy during transport. But this creates a whole new ballgame, and that's quite interesting, because we do encourage the sustainability production initiatives, but to make a shift or have a transition from natural gas or coal to hydrogen, you need the industry. That's the first thing. And I think we also need some national governments and the EU maybe, but it has to begin with the pioneers. And I'm thankful actually for Ulrich and Marcel to take this step, especially for Thyssenkrupp to be not only to have a pilot, to have it in small, just the product that we have, but to also invest largely in the hydrogen production, in the hydrogen, using hydrogen in the process of melting steel. I hope, to be honest, that more will follow, because this is, I think, the only way forward, especially if we see what happened recently, that will thrive this development. So I'm pretty happy with Ulrich and Marcel to bring this idea.
So see, I always love where the inspiration came from. Somebody had to come up with it first. And the truth is, as much credit as we're giving to Ulrich and Marcel, it's not them. The companies that they work for had to make a commitment. It starts at the C-level. It starts in the C-suite. And I'm delighted because SGB-SMIT is a big player. Thyssenkrupp is a big player in the market. So kudos to your bosses and your bosses' bosses and the people at the top, because they had to make a commitment to this. And by the way, these kinds of commitments are not cost neutral. It costs money to do the kinds of things you're talking about. I like to tell the story that the first rocket that went to the moon cost a lot of money, but the 100th one didn't cost anywhere near as much. We're doing something that is inspirational and aspirational, as I said. So thank you both for doing it. Enough kudos for you. Now let's get down to the basics. How did we get there? I want to talk about the steel first. I know steel making. You were so honest. You said you're a big polluter. We don't want people to know that. We want them to think that steel is made in a garden where flowers grow. Steel is a major component to everything we do and always will be. It's not going to go away. Steel manufacturing, steel repurposing, and all of that. So talk a little bit about how Thyssenkrupp got there. How did you decide that you wanted to make a steel that could be used in a transformer that could be purchased by a customer?
Yeah, thank you, Alan. We are really in the biggest transformation of our company since ever here. So steel is made since thousands of years, literally, in a blast furnace process using iron ore and coking coal as a reducing agent. So this is creating, by the chemical process itself, CO2, and a lot of CO2. To give you one figure here, 3.8 metric tons of CO2 is created in our case when we make 1 ton of grain-oriented electrical steel, core steel. That is a lot.
Yeah.
So our commitment is that we are replacing all our blast furnaces, and we have 4 of them where we make around 11 million tons of steel, which creates around 20 million tons of CO2. So we want to get rid of all of this. And we do this by applying a new technology, which is a direct reduction technology. So in the future, we will use iron ore, same as before, but not coking coal anymore, but hydrogen as a reducing agent. So this means water vapor is coming out of the furnace, and we have iron sponge coming out of this device. Already today, we have solutions by feeding hydrogen in blast furnace processes and others. And this is what Ulrich is using with SGB for the core steel. Yeah, and maybe the news of the last 2 weeks, which is very, very important for our company, is that we have the approval to invest more than 2 billion euro into that first direct reduction plant. And here, Alan, to your question, it needs pioneering because there is no real market for this at the moment. But it's that commitment that we clearly believe there will be this market, because also in the future, we guess that gray products, whatever it takes, will probably more costly than green products.
That's an interesting. Gray products more costly than green products. It's happening. It's happening. It has to come to what I call scale. But scale is people like SGB-SMIT saying, "Yeah, we want to participate in this." And you just spoke about it, Marcel, about the corporate commitment that you made. That's a huge commitment. It also takes a lot of garbage out of the air, and hydrogen in itself can be a problem. So you got to do it in a safe way. You can't have hydrogen escaping. So that's another whole problem. But what is the commitment, not just to this transformer, but the commitment from SGB-SMIT, Ulrich, to this whole pioneering issue?
I mean, commitment in a way that we really worked with Thyssenkrupp, and we agreed that we will be the first to bring this to the market. So of course that I mean, and I can only give back the compliment. Thyssenkrupp was the ideal product, it's the ideal partner for that. And so we were the first bringing it to the market. And the question was, which customer we should start. And we clearly, there was no doubt, we selected Enexis, SGB, Regensburg, and Enexis. They have a partnership since about 20 years. We supplied so many of these power transformers to them. So it's a really a good relation. It's a good partnership, supplier to customer. Therefore, we introduced this idea, and as Jose said it earlier, they were immediately accepting it and welcoming it, and also were willing to continue. So there is already some commitment we always really together have to continue that path.
Okay, so what has been the within Enexis, Hossein, when you look at what you had to get permission from somewhere to go ahead and participate in this, right? But within Enexis, how are you using it to tell your customers? Because you represent the final customer. That end customer's got to say, I want my power. I want it as cheaply as possible. I don't want to pay more money for it, right? I'm already paying more money for gas this year. Do something. But how is Enexis using it to express to your market the change and the impact on their lives? Because I think that's important. I assume your marketing department is getting all over this.
Well, our situation is different to as you are explaining it, Alan, because we are quite cost conscious, and it's very important to keep those prices low. So we need some help here, actually, as I said before, from also the EU and the national governments to pay the fair price for the gray energy, for natural gas and coal. As long that is not happening, it's quite a weight that we put on hydrogen to be interesting. So that's something that we should keep in mind. We are absolutely committed to the partnership that we have with SGB, and we definitely embrace the steps that Marcel and Thyssenkrupp is taking towards pioneering in this area, but it also needs some help from EU and national governments. And then I think we definitely have to make this step, well, it needs some help. That's what I can say about that.
Good, and it's interesting. So I'm asking online right now, Marcel. I want experts at your company to do a paper that has in it exactly what Hussein's talking about, because we need to spur the governments, particularly the governments and the consumers. We need them to know, and decarbonization is not going to come free. There's a price to pay at every level. Thyssenkrupp is investing billions of dollars. That's a major investment to this. I mean, this is not, I know steel and I applaud the company and I want to promote what you're doing. So Marcel, you and I will be in touch because I think it is inspirational. I've had other companies, Nucor in the United States, Gerdau Steel out of Brazil and the United States. We've talked about production and how you're moving to hydrogen. You all are way ahead of everybody. You're the pioneer. And remember what happens to the pioneer. They're the first ones to get shot. So let's put some protection around you and bring some other people to the party. And then SGB-SMIT, thank you for the fact that you're actually supporting this, because you've got the pressure on costs that the consumers and government puts on Enexis. They have to put that on you, then you have to put that on your suppliers. This is a unique situation. I think what it proves is, one, it can be done. It can be done effectively. And quite frankly, even though there may be some, hey, we sold it at a price that, less than what we would normally have to, even though we took a hit on some of the steel, we showed that it can be done. Now it's a matter of scale. And I think scale is coming a lot faster, because I know in the United States, we have a thing called the Inflation Reduction Act. What a stupid name for giving $40 billion to us to create carbon neutral power. Because that's really what they've done. It's $345 billion, of which $40 billion comes to the power industry to reduce carbon. So our government in North America finally has stepped up. Canada has stepped up. We're getting Latin America to step up. And Europe is now, I think Europe just passed something on a 58 billion euro approach to hydrogen economy. So they're getting there. Let's just make sure they do it right. Go ahead, Ulrich, you've got something.
I just wanted also to support the statement of Hussein about the governmental support. And also really, we, as a transformer manufacturer, we need support from the regulator, from the government, that the CO2 find a way into the specifications, in a way that it is from top down given clear rules, that it is at the end a fair comparison, but it needs to find a way into the specifications.
It's excellent, because that is, specs rule everything. As an engineer, I could control the world. I was a design reliability engineer, okay? And by that, I say all reliability, all sustainability, all resilience starts at design. And then specs come out of design. It's not specs make the design, we should design. What we've been doing is we're making the specs, and it's usually about what? Cost. It's always about, we got to take the lowest cost. What we want is the best product. And you're exactly right. We need everybody having to play fair here, because if you have to produce this and Hussein has to buy something at a certain range and somebody else comes along with a cheaper one because they're killing the ionosphere, they're killing everything that we live in, then Marcel and his company are doing it all for nothing. So I think Marcel's the one that ought to end this conversation about the inspiration of what Thyssenkrupp is doing. Thyssenkrupp, I got it.
Finally, we get there, Alan. No, but maybe I have a very, very fresh experience here. I'm currently in Italy at a trade exhibition, which is about electricity. And I gave a speech about this topic here, CO2 reduced steel for this industry. And so in the audience, there were questions coming which are exactly addressing what you just mentioned. So they are saying, we are on board and we want to do this, but the first thing is we need to have a level playing field. We need regulation, and we as an industry need to come together to create this, as there's too much confusion. And of course, we encourage this, because what is sometimes as a business person first a bit hard to digest and understand is that in the end, it's about decarbonization. So for our future, it's not so much about now the next business case and competing and so on. So it's really something longer. And you mentioned one thing. Yes, we are pioneering this, and we will continue with this absolutely with our commitment. But we do see, of course, the whole steel industry moving in Europe, but as well elsewhere. So we have announcement, and we embrace this as well, because that creates credibility for this product, for the industry. And it's a good thing in the end, as less CO2 will be polluted. That's what we need.
So in the United States, we have an organization called TMAA, the Transformer Manufacturing Association of America. They're a lobbying group and a steel industry group that really focused on grain-oriented steel and some of the things where we had tariffs on it, but it caused the product here to be more. Anyway, it is all about that. They're all about transformers and steel, right? They are a lobbying group to the federal government. They lobbied, and I want to give some kudos to them, because they caused this Inflation Reduction Act, which has nothing to do with inflation, right? Don't tell our president that. But the Inflation Reduction Act, we got in it that steel is going to get some support if they make a carbon neutral, and I use those words as decarbonization. So I know, Ulrich, we're not there yet, but to get to zero, we have to start here. And you guys have started. I must tell you, I love it when I get to do these things, but I get to do them with companies that are coming together from the customer standpoint, from the supplier standpoint, and from the component supplier standpoint, to create something that makes the world a better place. So thank you, Enexis. Thank all of your people for what you've done. Thank you, SGB-SMIT and Ulrich and all your people for what you're doing. And thank you, Marcel and Thyssenkrupp, for your commitment to this, because you're making the world a better place for my granddaughter.